Welcome to our series, Meetings with Remarkable People, where we explore the intersection between the arts, sciences, spirituality, in conversation with leading edge thinkers. My name is Bria, and I'm delighted about our call this evening, where we're joined by a very special guest of whom I am a huge fan, and I know many of you are, Brian Rutenberg.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Hi, Brian. Brian is an internationally exhibited painter based in New York City, and he is widely considered to be one of the finest American painters of his generation. Among his many accolades, Brian is a Fulbright Scholar, a New York Foundation for the Arts Fellow, a Basil Alkazzi USA Award recipient, and has had over 200 exhibitions throughout North America. His popular YouTube series, Brian Rutenberg Studio Visits, is viewed daily by thousands of people all over the world, and his recent book, Clear Seeing Place, is an Amazon #1 bestseller. Brian's most recent book, A Little Long Time, is to be published in February 2020 to coincide with his upcoming exhibition at Forum Gallery in New York City, which runs from February 27th to April 11th. We highly recommend checking that one out. Brian, thank you so much for joining us on this show.
It's a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
We're also joined by another one of our favorites, Berdhanya Swami Tierra. Berdhanya is a mystic born in Colombia, South America. For the past 30 years, she has been dedicated to a profound inner research which merges psychology, natural sciences, unified physics, and mysticism into a comprehensive model for the evolution of human consciousness. For the past 20 years, Berdhanya has led a school of mysticism, which offers in-depth opportunities for people around the world towards self-discovery, direct revelation, and a deeper understanding of the nature of reality. Berdhanya is the author of over 15 books in both English and Spanish, including The Mystic Heart, Mastering Reality, Lost Secrets of the Feminine, and Imagination, the Language of Alchemy. Welcome, Berdhanya.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
Finally, we have Matthew Cosgrove. Matthew is an oracle, mystic, and seer. His role is to represent and protect the heart of Earth. A master of the underworld, Matthew also offers openings, journeys, and vision work to help people recognize and transform in their present cycle of evolution. Matthew's work comes from a great depth of compassion and presence, which is deeply transformative to anyone he works with. Matthew and Berdhanya regularly work in collaboration, facilitating retreats, courses, and profound ceremonies across Canada, the USA, and internationally, as well as online. Both teachers are dedicated to animating a living mysticism, which allows different races in form and in non-form to interact in a dynamic exchange of information. Welcome, Matthew.
Thank you.
So I'll start by saying, Brian, I first saw your works this summer. We had the pleasure of being in Santa Fe, and we stopped in at Lou Allen Galleries, and we were really blown away. They had a different artist who was exhibiting at the time, so we were taken down into the vaults, into the back rooms to see your work. And I think we spent about an hour and a half with like maybe 2 or 3 of your pieces. Just
wow, thank you.
Like we were just really, and what really came through for me in your work was that you'd come to this place of real like depth of vision, and like that place within where your own personal vision becomes universal and becomes like its own dimension and its own like this beautiful mastery of your expression. So it was really touching. After seeing your works, actually, we were in Santa Fe, which is full of art galleries, and we were too full. We couldn't look at any other art. We were just like, you know, it's like when you fall in love or something, and you just we were really. Berdhanya, would you like to say something about that visit?
Yeah, I have been following Brian work in my side time to give a break to my psyche way of seeing and directing people, I do take the brushes and I play around, and I get very fed by that connection. And for many years, I looked at different contemporary artists that have the ability to feed me at that level. And I was looking in the internet to get some kind of inspiration, and oh, surprise, I got Brian, and then I got so entranced with the work that I literally went into Brian's psyche to see how those paintings were made. And I really thank you for feeding me at the soul level all those times. And of course, then I become very avid of the YouTubes and teachings that very much was in congruence with what we teach, which is just to be so transparent in
Yes.
who you are, that you're able to transmit the very essence of the artistry. When I look at your work, that's what it put me in touch with it, or to all that process, and at the same time to that point of stillness where I don't need anything else.
Yes.
That moment of connection to the emanation that piece is giving.
Yeah. T.S. Eliot, the still point of the turning world.
Yeah.
That's a line from.
Yeah.
That's beautifully said. Thank you.
Yeah. So in that way is a mystic expression, because it comes out of the cave of deep introspection.
Yes.
When you say, I am in my studio and I lock the door, the mystics, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
We close the door, and in our case, we go to nature, and nothing exists except the whole downloading of what reality is. But it's a different canvas with the same process of creating the art, creating the creativity, creating the creator, and all dancing back and forth to form who we are, where we are in the present, and how we culturally are expressing something that is usually should be out of our time, because it's not in agreement with any point of reference.
Right.
Is not in agreement with anything except the purity of the moment that we don't know what it is. So your work is remarkable, emanating that, and surely feed us. And I was so excited when Bria said, okay, Brian is accepting our invitation. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much for that. And that's very touching statement and assessment. And that's the most that I could hope for, is to communicate on a one-to-one basis. I always believe that the purpose of art is to give human beings an excuse to stare at each other. And regardless of the medium, whether it's the harpsichord or a poem or a chalk drawing, it's really just a chance to share and to peer into another person's heart. And I think the closer the heart is to the surface, the more transparent, to use your word, the more deep and rich the connection. Because I think when you can peer through someone else's eyes and for a moment get a glimpse of their heart, I think it reaffirms your own heart. And I think that is the sort of communication and the sort of collaborative part of the viewer and the work of art, that the artist and the viewer twist nervous systems around one another, and together they construct a place that wasn't there before and will never be there again. Yeah. It all happens in that split second, that moment of communication. So it's so very important to me that I try to communicate that and be as present as possible so that the viewer can see through my eyes for a moment and we can share. We can have that it's what's called the third thing. And you actually reference that as well, that you have the artist's perception and you have the viewer's perception, and together they create a third thing. And that's what we're after as painters, is that third thing.
That was like the experience, like I was saying, it was like being in a different dimension. And it was like seeing through that was exactly what was in your work. It was.
I'm glad that comes through. I work really hard at that, but.
So one of the things that really stands out in your writing and in your YouTube channel is this emphasis that you have on self-connection, like closing the door, working long, being by yourself, being your own best friend. Can you perhaps share some of your wisdom about the art and the craft of self-commitment and how this has given shape to your mastery in your own external expression? And perhaps as a second question, I'd ask if you could speak a little bit about how putting yourself out there, like putting your expression out there in the world, how that has impacted or changed your relationship with your inner world.
I think I grew up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, in an area called the Low Country, down between Charleston and Myrtle Beach. And before I ever even knew that there was any such thing as a painter, we had no arts in the town I grew up in. I would take fistfuls of mud in the marshes, splat them down on a dock under the blaring sun, and I would arrange little bits of colored paper on the mud, and then I would put another layer of mud, and then I'd take an oyster shell at the bottom or next to my feet, and I would skim layers off to reveal little bits of colored paper, of different intensities depending on how close to the surface they were. And I did it over and over and over again. And I realized that everything I needed was right in front of me all along, that I could create these little miniature worlds, these little places that I could extend my consciousness into long before I had any conception that there was any such thing as painting a picture or drawing. I started drawing at 10 and started painting at about 11. And I never really decided to be a painter. In fact, I don't even think of it now. I just knew that I felt the most like myself when I was doing that. And that's really what it comes down to, is feeling the most like yourself. And that's where it goes back to the notion of solitude. I think, to quote Glenn Gould, who has been the beacon for my life, is that all creative endeavor is done in solitude. So the most important thing that a painter can possess is a locked door, not just a door, but a lock. And somehow that symbolic turning of the lock not only keeps the world out, but it contains you inside, where self-awareness, the enemy of art, can be just washed away. And then you can sort of fall in love with the sound of your own voice because no one else is listening. And you can make mistakes. And that's so much a part of it, is coming in here and really just playing. And after a while, it just becomes kind of informed, constructive improvisation. It's just really kind of, it's almost like planned play, if that makes any sense. And I've been doing that for the better part of almost 44 years, doing that. And I still feel the most like myself. And I start to think, as I've been painting for so long, that it really doesn't even matter that I'm making paintings. The product part is just that's just the residue of what I'm doing. It's really about trying to manufacture a state of lucidity and then keep that around as long as possible. And that painting just happens to be the delivery system. It could be magic or juggling or dance or whatever it was that one is, has a proclivity for. I just happen to be good at drawing. And then I happen to be, crazy enough to devote my life to moving colors around on a flat surface, trying to create light where there was no light and space where there was no space. And the more I do it, the more I realize how much I don't know. And I find that it feeds me and nourishes me, and it teaches me how to be a human being. I think that art doesn't imitate life. I think it's the other way around. I think that art shows us how to be human. And the best way I can describe that is that that we walk through life divided into two parts, focused either on our thoughts or our bodily sensations. And rarely are we fully present in both. And what's beautiful about a painting is that it's two things at the same time. It's little piles of color stacked one on top of another. And then also it's a fictive world into which you can expand your awareness. And you can go back and forth between those two poles. And you can't really be in one or both. You can't be in both at the same time. It's one or the other. It's the body or the consciousness. But the more you look and the more you paint and the more you experience works of art, the closer those two things become, the smaller the gap becomes between those. And then I think it's possible to be fully present in experience in your body. And that's what painting has taught me.
I love that. It speaks so much to, we study yoga, meditation, presence, but you're speaking exactly the same language. You're just communicating it through your own practice. It's beautiful. Yeah,
and practice is the perfect word, as they say in meditation. It's always a practice. It's never, you're never really there. Something can only come to life when you can't have it. And that's why the longing is the most important part of what we do. I think that's the source of all art, is unfulfilled longing. Winnie the Pooh said that his favorite thing wasn't getting honey, but that moment when he might get honey. And that's what keeps me coming back, is maybe I'll get it right the next time.